What is up, Orioles fans? Nick here, riding solo for this episode. Gonna take you all through a Day 3 recap of the 2024 MLB Draft. We had 21 players selected by the Orioles across 20 rounds. If you haven't already, you can watch our Day 1 Hangout live stream over on YouTube, along with our regularly scheduled Monday night show from this week, where we broke down rounds 3 through 10. Both of those shows are also on the podcast feed for your enjoyment. Had a lot of fun talking about the first 10 rounds and 11 players of this draft. But before diving into a quick reaction and going over any numbers and thoughts we had about Day 3 picks, let's quickly review those picks from rounds 1 through 10. Never know if someone is listening to the show for the very first time. If you are, welcome aboard. Draft brings a little bit new excitement, some new listeners as well each year, so glad to bring this draft content, one of my favorite events of the year. Orioles starting this draft in the first round, pick 22 overall with UNC outfielder Vance Honeycutt. We know what the red flags are, but the upside is there with the power, speed, and defensive tools, very much highly regarded. With the PPI pick number 32 overall, the Orioles went Griff O'Farrell, the shortstop out of UVA. Maybe not the high ceiling there with O'Farrell, but as far as contact goes, strong defense at shortstop. O'Farrell is a really solid ball player, great makeup as well. They closed out night one in the second round with another UVA player listed as a catcher. We'll see if he sticks behind the plate. Maybe he plays some corner infield or even corner outfield, but it's Ethan Anderson, a more fun upside pick. Also good contact rates in the zone, some good power as well. Had a really solid last two seasons at UVA with the Cavaliers. You venture over to night two, rounds 3 through 10. The Orioles kicked off day 2 with USC outfielder Austin Overn. He was also a walk-on wide receiver. He's a track star, a basketball star. He's done it all. 80 grade speed, according to some. Left-handed hitter, of course. Little pop in the bat. Down year at USC this year, but he spent the summer in the Cape Cod League where he's hitting very well. 3 home runs, 11 total extra base hits, 314 average. I think it was J.J. Cooper over at Baseball America who even noted after the pick that they had heard from many people that Overn was rising up draft boards as draft day approached because of that Cape Cod League performance. Clearly, the Orioles were very high on him as well. Double plus speed, total freak athlete, according to Joe Doyle. Very fun pick. Also, the fun graphic that resurfaced that I mentioned on Monday's show. If you go back to the 2023 college season, D1Baseball.com had a tweet that had the DRS, defensive runs saved, leaders in the 2023 college season. First on that list was Enrique Bradfield Jr. Second was Austin Overn. Third was Vance Honeycutt. All three now, obviously, in the Orioles organization or will be soon. Overn is a draft-eligible sophomore, so maybe a little bit of leverage there, but I'm pretty sure that he will sign. Obviously, the Orioles using a third-round pick on him. Fourth-round pick going Auburn, right-handed pitcher Chase Alsop. Big guy, 6'2", 235 pounds. The walks went down this year. The strikeouts went up. A pretty solid year for him at Auburn. 12.6 curveball, mid-80 slider. The fastball can touch 100 miles per hour. Orioles believe he's a bit of a sleeper type pitcher in this draft class. Guy that didn't get as much hype as maybe he should have. We will see now that he is a pro. Fifth round, the Orioles went Cal Poly catcher Ryan Stafford. He is far from the only catcher we're going to talk about. He OPS'd over 1,000 this year at Cal Poly, 23 doubles, 6 home runs. He was a freshman All-American, Big West Defensive Player of the Year this year. A little bit undersized, but super athletic, Team USA experience, all two things that are very common among most of these draft picks, it seems like. Throws out a lot of base runners. Again, great in-zone contact rate numbers, good hit tool. A lot of strong believers out there, including Peter Flaherty of Baseball America, at one point believed that Ryan Stafford was a top 100 overall prospect in his draft class. Some swing and miss in his game without a ton of power, but again, super athletic, a fun hit tool. A little bit of a different profile from the type of catchers we've seen the Orioles go after. Round 6, Charlotte Christian High School. Shortstop Derek DJ Layton, fun high upside pick, also throwing in mid-90s on the mound. Seems like switch hitter plus speed. Broadcast did mention that he is a possible future center fielder even because he is a weapon on the base paths. The speed is there. Getting picked in the 6th round, I imagine DJ Layton is a lock to be signed out of the high school ranks. We'll talk about some more high school players later on, but that was one of the more fun picks in day 2. Round 7, Florida State left-handed pitcher Carson Dorsey is a 6'1 lefty. Formerly drafted by the Rangers, was in the JUCO ranks, spent last year as his first year at Florida State. Had an up and down year, but finished on a very high note, dominating in 3 NCAA regional games, pitching to a 2.14 ERA, 20 strikeouts to 6 walks. He was in the mid 90s, up to 94. Fastball quoted as being invisible up in the zone. Throws a low 80s sweeper as well, fading changeup. A lot of people seemed pretty high on the metrics on a lot of these pitches. Plenty of reasons why the Orioles were attracted to Dorsey. 8th round pick, it was Tulane catcher Colin Tuft. What is a draft without going the Tulane route and a kid named Colin? Tuft was at UVA before transferring to Tulane. A little bit of projection there maybe with the bats, but more of a defensive backstop, more in line with that profile we see the Orioles usually take with their catchers in this range. But the Tulane to Baltimore pipeline remains strong. 9th round, a senior signed pick, Illinois right-handed pitcher Jack Crowder, 6'4", 225-pound kid. Interesting article out there. Apparently maybe butted heads a little bit with his coaches over at Illinois, but worked hard in the offseason leading up to his senior year. Lost some weight, focused on the mental aspect of his game as well. Apparently, according to this article, the velo would regress pretty quickly in his starts, and things would get to him mentally during these outings, and he would kind of implode on the mound. But it looks like he cleaned up the relationship with his coaches. He cleaned up both his mental health and his physical health, and knowing the Orioles and knowing how much that means to them when they're scouting these kids, I imagine they think the changes he made are pretty real. He showed it on the mound, though, closing out his career with one of his best outings of his career, 8 innings, no walks, 5 strikeouts, just 1 run allowed in the NCAA regionals against Indiana State. He was a more highly regarded pitching prospect when he first came onto campus at Illinois. We'll see if the Orioles can unlock something with this senior sign. Round 10, closing out day 2, another senior sign, Christian Rodriguez, a 6'6" right-handed pitcher out of Cal State Fullerton. Rodriguez actually pitching this summer with the Frederick Keys. He is not the only pitcher from Cal State Fullerton who is with the Frederick Keys that the Orioles drafted this year. We'll talk about another one later on. But Rodriguez finished up his career at Cal State Fullerton, entered the transfer portal, and is committed to Hawaii, but I imagine that he will be going to Sarasota and signing with the Orioles. With the Frederick Keys, his last start with them, 9 innings, no walks, 16 strikeouts, set the MLB Draft League record for strikeouts in a game. First time they split their seasons into 2 halves in the Draft League. The first half is for draft-eligible players. The second half of the league is for amateur players who get paid to play in the league, kind of like an indie ball situation there. In that last start, playing in the Draft League, there's lots of data available, including StatCast data. If you look at Rodriguez's last outing, that record-setting outing for Frederick, he topped out at 95.6 miles per hour, generated 18 whiffs. The changeup alone had 11 whiffs and a 64% called strike plus whiff percentage, which are 2 unbelievable numbers on that pitch alone. It's not often we get this sort of data on the college guys that the Orioles just drafted, so being able to go back and comb through Rodriguez's and any of these other guys who were in the MLB Draft League, being able to go back and comb through that data is going to be a lot of fun, something I know I'll be doing over the next couple of days. But before we move on to rounds 11 through 20, the last 3 days, while extremely fun, have been exhausting with 3 straight late nights of research and recording. But I'm still feeling great and ready to talk for hours, if possible, about this draft class because, as we've mentioned in the last few episodes, Magic Mind reached back out and we are doing their 3-7 14-day challenge, taking one of these mental performance drinkable shots each morning along with our daily coffee. We're now the full 14 days into this challenge, and I feel, to be honest, pretty awesome. Really just more energized throughout the entire day. All 3 of us, myself, Zach, and Bob, we all have a lot on the table. Kids, full-time careers, families, and we love bringing you all the amount of content that we do on a pretty much daily basis, but it is a tremendous amount of work that requires a lot of balancing. But after adding Magic Mind back into our morning routine and beginning this challenge, I really do feel myself being more productive, more clear and focused mind. These things are packed with mushroom nootropics, adaptogens, and all the vitamin C and D you need for the day. I know the ingredients are natural and safe compared to the energy drinks that I used to rely on. And instead of giving up my morning coffee, which is critical to each day, it is one thing that I look forward to the most each morning, Magic Mind extends the life of that coffee so you aren't giving anything up. I also feel good knowing that Magic Mind was created with a scientific advisory board of doctors and medical researchers. The ingredients are organically grown and 5 cents of each bottle sold is donated to mental health charities that help U.S. homeless communities. I would strongly encourage all of you listening to join us in this challenge. Magic Mind is 100% refundable for up to 100 days after your purchase, so there is no risk in giving this a try. You listening right now have a limited time offer where you can use it gets you 48% off your first subscription or 20% off a one-time purchase with code OnTheVerge20. It's OnTheVerge20 at checkout. You can claim this discount at magicmind.com/ontheverge. You will not regret giving this a try. Go claim your 48% off a subscription with code OnTheVerge20.
We all know about the speed of sound, but have you ever thought about the sounds of speeding? If you drive over the speed limit, there are lots of different sounds that you might hear. Drive too fast, and you could hear the sound of your vehicle crashing, the sound of ambulances and first responders desperately trying to free you from the wreckage. You could hear the beeps of a heart monitor. You could hear doctors and nurses in an emergency room as you're being treated for your injuries. You could hear the sound of worried family members in the hospital waiting room, hoping to hear that you're okay. You could even hear the sound of people crying at a funeral. Because if you drive over the speed limit, whether by a lot or by a little, you can do damage that's beyond repair. You could seriously injure yourself, or worse, you could hurt and even kill someone else. When you speed, you put everyone on the road in danger. One way or another, speeding catches up with you. Paid for by NHTSA.
All right, so let's dive into now rounds 11 through 20. What do we know about these guys already? Some instant reactions. I'm recording this Tuesday night, just hours after the draft. So, of course, as we find more fun tidbits, fun nuggets of information, check out Twitter. Pop in the Discord. We posting information there as well as we find. But round 11, the Orioles went with Louisville left-handed pitcher Sebastian Gongora. He's listed at 6'5". Actually started his career at Wright State, where he was the Horizon League Pitcher of the Year, before transferring to Louisville, where he finished his career this past season, 77 innings pitched, 89 strikeouts. He added weight after he went undrafted last year, saw his velo go up a tick or two as well. He touched 97 this past year. He sits 93 to 94 with a slider, curve, and changeup. And I'm going to read off from his write-up over at futurestarseries.com, where they said Gongora is a prototype southpaw with a high waist, long levers, and a delivery that should lend well to staying in a rotation at the next level. He has an upwards trajectory coming out of a premium-bodied lefty. Big up arrow here if a team believes they can help polish up his secondary offerings. Baseball America had him about 70 spots higher than Joe did over at Future Star Series. They had him up into the mid-300s in their big board. Pretty much the same notes on him, though. But if he's got 97 in the tank, I think the Orioles can work on his delivery. The arm slot is apparently shifted over the years, so maybe adjust that, tighten up the secondaries, and I think when you've got that velo in the tank, he becomes a much more intriguing arm to join this system. Moving on to round 12, the Orioles went back to the high school ranks, and it's yet another catcher. Round 12, Andrew Tess out of Calvary Christian High School in Florida. He is a Pittsburgh commit. I'm going to read off his stats here because with these high school kids, it's just fun. Like, they don't take any stock into these numbers. This is for entertainment purposes only. He hit .500 this season with 7 home runs, 21 walks to 10 strikeouts, a .943 slugging percentage. Not OPS, but a .943 slugging percentage. Again, just for fun. From Taylor Blake Ward, who puts out some great content on every draft pick every year over on Twitter, he tweeted out, projectable, model-friendly right-handed hitter, some rhythm in his swing with contact upside, some swing and miss, physical and athletic enough with projectable tools to see long-term catching. Another note here on Tess calls him an elite defender behind the plate, so he's not my favorite of the 4 high school picks that Baltimore made. Not saying I don't like him at all, but if he signs, I do think he would be a fun follow, especially if the bat stands out. And we'll talk about more about these high school kids later on, but I do think Tess is going to, of the 4 high school picks, I think Tess is going to be the more difficult one to sign. I think Leighton is probably a lock to sign because of where the Orioles drafted him in the 6th round, but Tess, 12th rounder, Pitt commit, I think he's going to take a little bit of work to get him, but the Orioles should have plenty of money to work with these guys. Moving on to round 13, the Orioles took right-handed pitcher Brandon Downer out of California Baptist University. This is not a downer pick, though. He had entered the transfer portal this offseason and was committed to Kansas, but I imagine that he does not make it out there. Prototypical draft pick, I think, for in this type of range, where if you look at his baseball guard stats, they're not going to really impress you, but if you dig a little bit deeper, you are going to find something. He's 6'5", 225 pounds, 82 innings this past season at California Baptist, a 4.35 ERA, 63 strikeouts to 32 walks. So he had about 7 strikeouts per 9 while walking 3.5 per 9 this year, and he did show notable improvements from 2023 to 2024. He went from allowing more than 14 hits per 9 innings to just 8 this season, and while the strikeout rate was 8.6 per 9 last year, and that dropped to 6.9 this year, the walks per 9 went from 5.6 to 3.5. When you read the scouting report, though, on him, you walk away much more intrigued. And this is from a live look over at Prospects Live. They note that Downer was 92 to 95 this year with his fastball. He gets above average extension and some carry. The fastball is an average offering right now, but he has 2 quality breaking balls, including an impressive curveball and a low spin quality changeup. Needs to develop feel and consistency, but he has the power and secondaries to make teams interested. He will be a ball of clay for a team on day 3. We know the Orioles love their multiple clay with pitchers. I like this Brandon Downer pick. I'm intrigued to see him a little bit more. Moving on to round 14, this was a fun pick. Learned the name of a bunch of new colleges with this draft class. Right-handed pitcher Cohen Aiken out of Lindsey Wilson College in Kentucky, which is an NAIA school. This is why I love baseball so much. It truly doesn't matter where you play. If you are good enough, scouts will find you, Twitter will find you, someone is going to find you, and you will get an opportunity. Aiken actually tweeted out a month ago after his college season had ended, tweeted out a highlight reel and some data asking for a pro opportunity, and it looks like the Orioles called and he's going to get that chance. He's 6'2", he's from Canada. He had 110 strikeouts last season, 101 strikeouts this season, so 211 strikeouts in 138 innings over the last 2 years. Then he went to the Northwoods League this summer, where he has a 2.93 ERA, and he is the Northwoods leader in strikeouts right now, 52 strikeouts to 9 walks in 40 innings. So pretty gaudy strikeout numbers throughout his career. Granted, that is against NAIA competition, but I like the numbers in the Northwoods League. That is better competition. That's a wood and bat league. So to see him continue to excel in that league, he's also a little bit older as well, but still, to see that kind of domination, I go back to when we would have our favorite draft analyst on the show, Dr. Stephen Loftus. One of the things that he would always say that stuck with me was, at some point when the numbers just get so gaudy with these guys, even if you're talking about a small school kid, at some point the numbers just get so gaudy, you've got to pay attention and be like, that's just good. He's just a good player. And I think that's the case here. According to Cohen's tweet, he throws a fastball that's 91 to 93 that touches 94, an 88 to 91 mile per hour sinker, changeup 83, 85 miles per hour, and an 80 to 83 mile an hour slider. The Orioles have seen these small school arms excel in the system lately. You look at Michael Ferret is flying up the rankings this year. Dylan Hyde is having a fantastic season in Double-A right now. I'm pretty stoked to see what Cohen Aiken can do. Hopefully a better Aiken, maybe, than the one we have. Round 15, right-handed pitcher Carter Rustad out of Missouri. He is a fifth-year senior, a much older player. He's already 23 years old, listed at 6'4", 194 pounds. He was originally drafted all the way back in 2019, in the 23rd round by Milwaukee, back when the draft was 40 rounds. But he went to college at San Diego, where he pitched for 2 years, and then spent 3 years on the campus at Missouri in the SEC. This season, he logged 65 innings. He struck out 58, walked just 10, but he did give up 14 home runs and hit 14 batters. I do think because he missed all of 2023. Actually, he pitched 1 inning in 2023. So he missed virtually all of 2023 due to an injury. So I think the 14 home runs and 14 hit batters, those are uncharacteristic numbers if you look at his career stats. I think that can be attributed to getting the feel back after missing a full year. If you go back to his high school scouting report, the fastball was the bread and butter. It touched 97. It was a high spin offering. And according to the high school report, when he was drafted by Milwaukee, the scouts believed that he was a projected starter if he could hold his velo, which would dip early in outings, And if his secondaries took a big step forward, then he was going to be a very intriguing pitching prospect. It looks like the fastball velo's in the low 90s now. Currently working on gathering some more updated information on Rustad. He did cross paths, though, with current Orioles assistant pitching coach Mitch Plasmeyer, who was at Missouri at the same time as Rustad, I believe, for the 2021 and 2022 seasons. But they were at Missouri at the same time, so that could very easily be the connection here and why the Orioles grabbed Rustad. We'll go to round 16 now, and this is my favorite round. This is my favorite pick in the draft. Outfielder Nate George out of Manuka Community High School in Illinois. And it's not my favorite pick just because I want to say Manuka as many times as possible. Nate George appears to be a very high upside talent and one of the more fun talents that the Orioles took in this class. He is the third high school bat drafted by the Orioles. He was, I'd say, committed to Eastern Illinois originally, but then just recently, last month in June, he switched his commitment to Northwest Florida State Junior College. I think there's a lot to like here, and I think I'm right when I say that he is signable because there's real buzz and excitement out there surrounding Nate George. And actually, there was a recent local news story. In that story, it was a quote saying that if George were to be selected in this year's draft, his plan is to go pro immediately. He's my favorite pick from day 3. He's probably, outside of Vance Honeycutt, my favorite pick in this draft class. He's a 6-foot right-handed hitting outfielder, state champion track star, and he doesn't even go to practice. He just shows up to the major meets, and he wins them. As a former track coach who has coached 5 state champion sprinters, all the respect to Nate George. Here's the important information, though. From a scouting report over at FutureStarSeries.com, they say he is powder keg built outfielder. He sinks his legs and anchors his backside at the plate in an effort to use ground force to create power, very little wasted movement in his swing, battles long at bats, improving his timing and triggers will create a reliable hit tool as he faces more advanced pitching, a way more athletic Evan Gattis, tremendous athlete, double plus run times, takes average routes, and the glove is average right now, but should get better with reps. He was also just 18.1 on draft day, so a very, very young outfield pick. Again, outside of the obvious Vance Honeycutt because he was a first-round pick, the more I spent this afternoon watching Nate George highlights and reading about him, the more he is becoming my favorite pick in this entire class. So excited to get him signed, hopefully, and in this system. Go to round 17. Left-handed pitcher Isaiah Salinas out of Cowley County Community College in Kansas. Say that 5 times fast. Cowley County Community College in Kansas. Listed at 6'1", 180 pounds. This past season at CCCC, he made 16 appearances. He struck out 90 guys in 62 innings. He did walk 37, but there is video from an outing back in April of this year. Fastball was 88 to 92. About 2,400 RPM. Curveball was 74 to 77, around 2,800 RPM on the curveball, 82 to 84 mile per hour changeup. It looks like he has added about 2 or 3 ticks to the fastball over the last year or so. There is another note here on Salinas that says he is an athletic lefty with a big metric profile, which isn't that shocking considering he is an Orioles draft pick here out of a smaller school. I like that the Orioles brought in more lefties this year. Probably going to have to wait to see until next year to see most of these arms like we did last year, but last year's class has been worth the wait so far, and hopefully this class can follow that trend. 3 more picks here real quick. Round 18, right-handed pitcher Michael Calden out of Felician College in New Jersey. Today I learned that there is a Felician College in New Jersey. He's a 6'3" righty who had 109 strikeouts in 75 innings. Quote from Matt Blood right after the draft about how the Orioles brought him in to their pitching lab and liked what he was able to do. He impressed them enough to draft him. I think he is also this year's Nestor Herman. In that, to be honest, finding out more details about pitch mix, velo, other data, any notes of interest, a lot of dead ends so far. So we're asking more questions, gathering more information about Calden. That's all I got right now. Stay tuned to Twitter as we find out more on Calden. Round 19, we go back to the high school ranks. The Orioles selected outfielder Braylon Whitaker from Cox Mill High School in North Carolina. He is committed to Wingate. At the moment, he is a left-handed hitter, listed at 5'10", 160 pounds. This past season in high school, he hit .500, struck out just 5 times in 105 plate appearances, 25 walks, 2 home runs. There is a write-up on him from before his senior season describing him as a fast twitch type of player that impacts the game on both sides of the ball, a general in the outfield, keeps the barrel above the ball, pressures defenders with his foot speed. I made this prediction in our Discord, kind of talked about it too recently, but DJ Layton I think is a lock to sign. Nate George I think will sign for a smaller amount. Seems like he wants to go pro. He's only committed to a junior college, so I think he will be a little bit easier to sign. I think the catcher Tess will take a nice chunk of change. And I almost wonder if Whitaker is the insurance backup type pick. Of course, signing all the high school kids would be great, but I could see Whitaker being the guy here who maybe the money gets floated down to if there's extra funds because Tess has priced himself out and he decides to go to Pittsburgh. I could be also completely wrong there. I hope I am. I hope all four guys sign, but we'll see within the next few weeks. Last but not least, we go to round 20. We have right-handed pitcher Evan Yates out of Cal State Fullerton. This is Christian Rodriguez's teammate last year at Cal State Fullerton. They are teammates again this summer with the Frederick Keys. Actually, Yates, who stands at 6'2", will go back to 2023 stats. He made 15 starts in 2023, becoming the Friday night starter for, I believe they're Cal State Fullerton is the Titans. 15 starts, 3.75 ERA, 69 strikeouts in 74 innings. He did not pitch in 2024 with Cal State Fullerton. Christian Rodriguez didn't pitch in 2023 due to Tommy John surgery, and I wonder if his teammate Yates here suffered the same fate. I don't know. There's no information on Cal State's website. There's no information on his social media as far as I looked. So as of right now, all I know is he did not pitch in 2024 for Cal State Fullerton. But he is healthy this summer, pitching for the Frederick Keys. Right now, he's pitching to a 1.27 ERA, 19 strikeouts, 8 walks, and 21 innings. It's a low 90s fastball, 4-pitch mix, and just looking at his last outing with Frederick, pulled up his baseball savant numbers. He sat 92 miles per hour, topped out at 94, 19 pitches. He had 6 whiffs. So a pretty good outing for Yates out of relief. Excited to dive in, just like Rodriguez, a little bit more into his Frederick Keys data, see if we can see anything else that pops. But that will do it for the draft picks, 21 players, 20 rounds. There is one more player I want to talk about real quick, because just before recording this, Baseball America noted that the Orioles have signed right-handed pitcher Alex Ramos to a free agent deal. He is from Goshen High School in New York. He is committed to Florida International. When you watch him pitch, I instantly thought Keegan Gillis. Not the height, obviously. Keegan Gillis is in his own tier there. But the high arm slot, the full movement, looks just like Gillis in my mind. Fastball is 93 to 95. 74 to 76 mile per hour curveball, mid-80s changeup, 20 plus inches of induced vertical break on the fastball. Unfortunately, Goshen just had elbow surgery this spring, so he is a long-term play here. Clearly, he's someone that the Orioles scouted and wanted coming out of high school. He got hurt. They offered to sign him, have him rehab here with the organization, or he could continue rehabbing and go to Florida International where he was committed. Clearly, he has chosen to sign with the Orioles, rehab with a professional team. And so it's going to be a while before we see him. Long-term play here, but glad Ramos took the Orioles up on the offer, and fun project. Keep an eye on, it looks like, down the road. So that's it. 21 players plus a UDFA, so 22 players to highlight there. We now wait and see who signs and for how much, who goes back to college or who honors their commitments. And then we get to see which players get some run this year for Delmarva. Overall, I think in a year noted by every draft evaluator as a down year in terms of talent available, and with the Orioles picking at 22, I think they were able to grab some fun players and some intriguing pieces. We'll see who pops, who is the Zach Fruit of this class, the guy that goes from unknown to rising prospect. Is there a Michael Ferret in this group of pitchers, someone who comes out next year with a revamped repertoire and just skyrockets up the rankings? We'll have to see. But in the meantime, thank you all for listening over the last 3 days. This is one of my favorite events of the year. Follow us on X at The Verge Pod. We never ask, but take one quick second. Leave us a 5-star review if you are listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. You can join our Patreon for more perks, bonus episodes, and access to the private channels in our free and public Discord. You can join that for free, but again, we have private channels for patrons, patreon.com/ontheverge. Or just simply leaving that 5-star review on the podcast feed or subscribing to our YouTube page. Free ways you can greatly help us out. All gestures greatly appreciated as we bring you all year-round coverage of the Orioles farm system and beyond. Thank you again for listening. We'll talk to you all again next Monday, back with Bob and Zach. Have a great week. Enjoy the rest of the All-Star break, Orioles fans.
Hey, it's Michelle Beadle. That's right, the Michelle Beadle. You're welcome. You love talking about sports. I love talking about sports. You know the only thing cooler than talking about sports? Sports! And right now, all your favorite sports are on Sirius XM. I'm talking every NFL game, every game from the NBA, NHL, MLB, every NASCAR race, golf major conference college sports, and all the top games in the WNBA. If it gets your heart pumping, it's on Sirius XM. To start your free trial of Sirius XM today, visit SiriusXM.com/believe.